And co-emceeing with Erdogan, and thank you all on behalf of Campaign to Defend People's Struggle in Iran. We are very glad to be here and very glad that you guys joined our call and are here to defend people's struggle in Iran. As you know, we gathered to echo people's voice, people who stood up for their rights, and you heard that last 3 months there were unrest in all over the country, in many provinces, many cities, which were unfortunately, as usual, crashed by Revolutionary Guard of Islamic regime under the excuse of a national security threat. Unfortunately, any time that people come out and stand up for their rights and demand their basic rights, they are being crushed by Islamic regime guards unleashed to the protesters. And lately, in last 3 months, over 1,500 people were arrested, over 1,500 people were killed, over 8,000 arrested, many wounded, and many still are in the jail, and families have no news. They don't know where their kids are, and everybody is looking for their kids. And it's not just the kids that came to the street and got arrested, but also there is a push to the families, to make sure they do not stand up for their kids' demands, for the demands that Islamic regime definitely cannot fulfill. This is the Islamic regime that the only tools that they have is crushing the people's protests, crushing them on the street and jail them, torture them, and keeping them in prison with no clue. They are not releasing any numbers of the dead ones. They are not releasing any number of how many people are in the prison these days. We are worried here. We are worried, that's why we are here to echo families' demand for the immediate release and unconditional release of their beloved one. We also are here to make sure we demand the people's demand are be met with no violence. And as you know, there was a plane crash, Ukrainian crash, in beginning of January in Iran. That was the crash as a result of warmongers, Iranian warmongers. That was a crash that Iranian regime took responsibility, but they are trying to push people, convince people that was unintentional. But we know that regime that has no respect for the people, for their own people, have no respect for anybody. Never mind they are dual citizen, never mind they are from other countries flying to Iran. That's why we know that this crash, something, a boo-boo is under this crash. Something is going on. There is going to be a, what do you call it? There is going to be a deal later. Wait and we see what's going to happen later on this regards. Anyhow, our heart goes with the families of victims. Our heart goes for those who are from Afghanistan, from Ukraine. They were in plane too. It wasn't just Iranian travelers. They were Afghan and Ukrainian, as much as I know, and we know about it. That's why we sympathize with those families. Our heart goes for the families, victims here. I'm going to be short here and leave the mic to Erdogan.
Down with Islamic Republic of Iran. Down with Islamic Republic of Iran. Free all political prisoners in Iran. Long live international solidarity. Long live international solidarity. In sympathy with the airplane crash, the Ukrainian plane crashed of Boeing 737 upon takeoff at Tehran. In airport took the lives of 176 passengers and crew, included 63 Canadian and people from 6 other nationalities around the world. Islamic regime of Iran shot down the plane with an anti-craft missiles and then saying perhaps accidentally, and claimed engine malfunction was the likely cause of the plane crash, and then continued for 3 days, lying not only for their own people in the interior of Iran, but all around the world. 3 days. University students and people against of this criminal action protest in the cities, variety cities, and mostly in the capital city of Iran, Tehran, and streets in Iran, and so on. Since hundreds protesters were arrested and imprisoned. Tens of students in the University of Tehran and other universities with different cities who had held rallies, tens of students in solidarity with the mass protest were arrested and imprisoned. More arrests in cities and towns have been reported. The number of the people arrested since November 2019 uprising reached to more than 10,000 people. After attack and massacre to protest in November 2019, the regime officials claimed they crushed the protesters. Of course, the regime fear of the protesting masses and its use of violence and cruelty and are obvious. The Islamic regime may destroy the mass uprising by killing and filling prisons with the people. However, there is no doubt that it will have to face larger uprising and greater waves of mass protest in future. Each time protesters targeted the regime's leader, included Ali Khamenei and Rouhani, president, and the totality of the dictatorship system. This orientation is seen in the slogans such as "Death to Khamenei" and "Death of the Dictatorship," and was manifested in the act of setting fire to Khamenei's and the other leader picture all in the streets. Both immediately turned into a political battle. While the big majority of the society lives in hardship, billions of dollars of Iranian money robbed from the people's hands by the regime and are spending in Lebanon, Iraq, Yemen, and Syria to finance Shia Islamic groups, fundamentalists, or religious institutions and extensions of the superstitions. Along with the dire economic condition, the political area has been more close to each other, and harsher repression is being used. Workers, teachers, students, women, writers, civil rights activists, environmentalists, and etc. are arrested, imprisoned, and tortured for simple activities and protest. Many of these activists sentenced to long prison term. Another similarity was the class base and demands of the protesters. They use the jobless people, women, workers, the poor, residents of the nationwide were the main drive of this struggle for job, bread, and freedom. Job, bread, freedom.
Job, bread, freedom.
This shows larger parts of the population have been hammered under economic pressure and the policies of the regime, and have been pushed to lower classes. Millions of the young people and the unemployment, even university graduates, live in poor condition and situation. The backward Islamic regime, which had been pinked by the uprising of the angry people, knew it's very soon the protest continued. For this reason, it tried to crush the protest with maximum brutality and force. Can you believe that? The security forces have stolen bodies, bodies who have been killed by the government soldiers, of the victims from hospital and legal medicine officers, and have charged $400 for each person, bodies for their family. They have to pay for it. Shame! As long as this situation persists, mass uprising and social explosion will be inevitable. These uprisings, each time they erupt, make a new progress, as we have been witnessing. The rising people's consciousness has improved since 2018 to 2020. The number of people engaging in protest has increased. The movement have been radicalized continuously. The Islamic regime cannot save itself from the workers' class movement and cannot escape falling by the people's power in Iran. Long live international solidarity!
Hey, hey, ho, ho! Islamic regime has got to go! Okay, I would like to ask our friend Barbara Walder to come and share her thought with us. She is with Just Peace Committee, representing Just Peace Committee, and will share her thought with us. Please welcome to Barbara.
Thank you very much for Parveen. I work with Parveen in the Just Peace Committee. We are for peace, but not peace at any cost. We are for peace with social justice. We support movements for social justice and negotiated terms respecting the people's demands to solve their problems and to negotiate peace on the terms of the people to improve the situation of the people. We are part of the International League of People's Struggle, an anti-imperialist alliance. So we are internationalists, and our focus is US-led imperialism as a main cause, if not the main cause, of many of the injustices of the world, many of the conflicts, and a lot of the violence around the world. So today, a little bit later, we'll be addressing the militarization and the threat of war in the Middle East, and particularly the threats against Iran, the people of Iran. We're talking about the people of Iran. And we are addressing the sanctions. We say, end the sanctions against Iran, because they are not really punishing the regime, it seems to me. They are punishing the average person and disrupting local commerce and your access to your basic needs, causing more unemployment and causing unrest and causing more suffering of the people already suffering in the hands of the Islamic regime and their state terror and repression. We are in the anti-imperialist movement because people's struggles in various parts of the world come forward asking for solidarity. They want their causes supported for human rights, against state terror, state repression, for a decent standard of living, for real democracy, for just and lasting peace, for an end to patriarchy, and so on and so forth. And they talk about their experience and they ask for solidarity. So we join hands. And it's on this basis that my friend Parveen is working with the Just Peace Committee and has asked me here today. If we look at the US-led imperialist strategy, increased militarization, economic warfare, including the sanctions, all these tactics go far beyond conventional war. And we know this has been going on for decades, but they are really developing cyber warfare these days, using all the tools of communication they can, carrying out psychological warfare, carrying out propaganda warfare, dominating the media, and using culture to twist the minds, distort what's going on, deny and hide things that are going on, and present the world as upside down, like right is wrong and wrong is right. Let me talk about the sanctions. That is a focus of our anti-war action today. Why is sanctions part of the U.S.-led strategy? Oh, they want to upset, create disruptions, weaken a people, a nation. They want to cause divisions. They want to push politics in one direction or in another direction. They want to cause chaos. They want to coerce. And they have the black hand of their military and their espionage and so on to force to coerce, to force trade relations that they desire, and to intimidate, to terrorize the people into submission, to try to quell, to try to stop their uprisings and their revolutions. The ILPS stands for revolution. We say just peace because sometimes revolution, even bearing arms, is necessary, and we understand that. So we support the progressive forces in Iran and the revolutionary forces in Iran who are fighting for real, genuine democracy, just peace, who are fighting to release the political prisoners, to stop the state terror, to raise the standard of living again and improve the standard of living, to have a people's culture, to protect the environment, conserve the environment, use the resources properly, defend their real sovereignty, and not as the Islamic regime appears to want to do. The Islamic regime appears to want to expand its own kind of empire. And we are against theocracy. That is not democratic. That is not in the interests of the people. And so we do not support the real Islamist terrorists and the Islamist fundamentalists or any religious fundamentalist movement, because it just increases conflict and violence. It causes war. I mean, look at India, for example, where communalism, religious hatred is drummed up. Religious right and orthodoxy is forced on a lot of people and discriminate against people who don't follow those ideas. So we certainly do not defend the Islamic regime of Iran. However, it's not up to other people who are not from Iran, who are not involved in Iran, to tell you what to do. We have to hear from you, from people like Parveen, to tell us what are your issues, what is your experience there, what kind of solidarity do you want, what support do you want. Tell us about your movement. And we invite you to have further discussions with us and to do more joint actions and activities together, forums and actions and so on. So we know there are many other socially negative forces besides U.S. imperialism. We, the ILPS, Just Peace Committee, and all the organizations support social liberation, human rights, real democracy, just peace. We oppose the state terror and repression in Iran. We oppose theocracy and reaction. And we join hands with you making your just demands. Free all political prisoners.
Free all political prisoners in Iran.
Down with state terror.
Down with state terror.
Stop the state repression against labor.
Stop the state repression against labor.
Stop the repression against other activists. Long live the people's revolutions for real freedom and just peace. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is going to be Ehsan Sabit from the Union of the Unifor.
I would like to send my deepest condolence to the family and friends of the victims of the Ukrainian flight, which has been shot down by 2 missiles by Iranian terrorist government, which that was the first time in the history of the human beings, commercial plane got shot down with 2 missiles. But unfortunately, after national and international pressure, after 3 days denying, they just accepted, they didn't accept their responsibility. They just believed it's okay, we shot it. But still they haven't accepted responsibility. This is a crime against humanity. This is a crime against peace. The international community and Iranian community, they have to take this terrorist government to the court, to international court. They have to answer all this innocent life they have been killed by the missiles, which this flight was flying in the free and green zone, flight zone on top of the airport. After a few minutes of takeoff, got shot. International community got shocked what happened. But for 3 days they denied. After 3 days, they just accepted, yes, we shot. But they haven't accepted the responsibility. Why they shut it down? Why they didn't stop the flight? Also, this is not the last crime that have been done. 2 months before this crime which they have been committed, over the gas price, which overnight the gas price became triple. Next morning, working class people, which they are struggling under the pressure of the life expenses, under the pressure of there's a dictatorship, which they have no freedom, which even if the child they can go to a school, they are struggling. They came to a street. Just they ask for their right. How can we live with the 3 times with the price of the gas goes up? They ask the question, how about our wages? Can you increase our wages 3 times? They didn't hear anything. But unfortunately, highly trained anti-protests of the Iranian government, which they have all the best weapons in the world, all the best equipment in the world. They came to the street to clash down the peaceful protest. They located their snipers on top of the roof, and they ordered them. Khamenei is one of them, was the supreme leader, ordered them, just shot them, just kill them. They shot to their head. They shot to their chest. This is unbelievable. And also, they shut down the internet. In 3 days, they clashed down all the protests, which is their right, peaceful protest, which they were just asking their right, asking for freedom, asking for employment, asking for recession, which is going on right now, asking for women's rights, human rights, child labor, which they do stop the child laborers. But unfortunately, they got killed by the snipers. This is unbelievable. This is the most greatest crime they have been created by the Iranian terrorist regime. We are here today to support. But this gives us a strong message. We don't need to sit home and wait. Some of this Iranian, even if Iranian left, they wait for Trump. They wait for war. No, this is our responsibility to stand up. This is our responsibility to stay strong in solidarity with the Iranian workers, with the Iranian people, with the women activists, with the Syrian activists. Then we can clash down all the governments. That's the time. 40 years dictatorship is enough. This is the time we have to stand in solidarity with the Iranian. Thanks.
Down with Islamic Republic of Iran. مرگ بر ستمگر چه شاه باشه چه رهبر. No to referendum or reform as alternatives. Yes to general strike and revolution. It's hard to say, right?
Let me go in the Persian.
Yes.
اون که میگه رفراندوم دروغ میگه به مردم. اصلاحات رفراندوم رمز فریب مردم. نه رفراندوم نه اصلاح، اعتصاب انقلاب.
Okay, our next speaker is Mina Nasr. She is an activist with campaign to defend people's struggle in Iran. Also, she is a union activist. Please give warm welcome to Mina.
Thank you. Greetings to everyone and thank you for joining us in this protest against the Iranian regime's continued atrocities. We are on the anniversary of the uprising of January of 2018, an uprising that shook more than 100 Iranian cities in 10 days. Between January of 2018 to January of 2020, we have witnessed a new political era in Iran, a period full of growth for the movements in support of Iranian workers, teachers, retirees, women, and poor and rural people, among other social movements. All of the uprisings in the past 2 years were brought forward by regular Iranian citizens, including workers, students, and unemployed youth. They opposed not only the regime's political and religious tyranny, but also the exploration, looting, corruption, and class inequality of Iran's capitalist system. Therefore, those who think that the Iranian people are only fighting for freedom and democracy and have no goal of establishing equality and social justice are completely wrong. The movement often uses the following chants: Non kar azadi. This means bread, employment, and freedom, the fundamental human necessities that every Iranian deserves. During this critical two-year period, the Iranian people have repeatedly opposed the aggressive foreign policy of the Islamic Republic and aimed to expand the Shia Islamic influence in the Middle East, using billions of wasted dollars that could have secured the people's well-being and raised workers' wages. The Iranian people also oppose war and any kind of foreign imperialist intervention and interference in Iranian affairs, including economic sanctions. You cannot have true freedom without social justice. That's why we are part of the Iranian regime opposition group known as the Third Voice. That is a voice that opposes to the whole of the Islamic Republic and calls for its overthrow through a social revolution without foreign imperialist intervention by Iran's enemies, including the US, Israel, and Saudi Arabia. We also dislike the governments of Russia, China, and Turkey, all supporters of the Iranian regime and their goal to spread their influence in the region. These outside powers only think of their own interests and do not care about the interests of the Iranian people. Long live independence, freedom, and social justice. Long live the revolution to overthrow the Islamic capitalist regime of Iran. Thank you.
Thank you, Mina. Our next speaker is going to be one of our activist member of Karzar, Suleiman Bayezidi. I invite him to come to mic.
با درود به شما رفقا، دوستان و کسانی که اومدین، عزیزانی که اومدین امروز در همصدایی با پژواک مردم تحت ستم در ایران. من روی سخنم با مردم در ایرانه، مردمی که 40 سال هزینه دادن، شکنجه، اعدام، سنگسار، قتل عام مردم به طرق مختلف. من مفتخرم که به عنوان عضو کوچیکی از کارزار دفاع از مبارزات مردم ایران صدای سوم هستیم. مفتخرم به این که ما هم در جبهه ضد امپریالیسم و هم با حفظ مرزبندی‌های خودمون با امپریالیسم و با ارتجاع مذهبی حاکم بر ایران خواهان انقلاب هستیم و مردم از قیام آبان ماه تا به امروز ثابت کردند که نه خواهان رفرم هستند و نه خواهان و نه دل به رژیم چنج هایی دوختن که در کریدورهای کاخ سپید چشم که بیان مردم ایران رو از این منزلاب، از این بختک جمهوری اسلامی نجات بدن. ما صدای سوم هستیم. صدای سوم نه به این معنی که ما جمهوری اسلامی رو به خاطر ضد امپریالیست بودنش که حتی ضد امپریالیست هم نیست تبرئه کنیم. ما صدای سومی هستیم که هم نه به مداخله نظامی در ایران نگفتیم، به مداخله نظامی در ایران نگفتیم، نه به حمایت آمریکا و دول غربی هیچ نوع خوشبینی داریم و در این حال خواهان سرنگونی جمهوری اسلامی نه از طریق این لابیست های جمهوری اسلامی بلکه متکی بر اراده عمومی خلق ایران هستیم. خلقی تحت ستم که 40 سال دارن تاوانش رو میدن، از اصلاحات گذاشتن و گول نخوردن، از جنبش سبز گذاشتن و گول نخوردن، از لابیست هایی که امروز در همین غرب چشم به معجزه دوختن که بله ما رژیم ایران رو چنج میکنیم بدون دخالت مردم ایران از این گذاشتن و تو آبان ماه و دی ماه نشون دادن که خیابان سنگر مردمی است. خیابان سنگر مردمی است که میخواد این جمهوری اسلامی رو به زیر بکشه و نشون دادن که این مشت محکم هر بردهن پرو امپریالیست هایی است که میخوان به کمک ترامپ حکومت ایران رو به اصلاح ساقط کنن و هم بردهن جمهوری اسلامی که این رژیم رفتنی است. و یقین داشته باشید که ما با تمام وجود، با تمام پژواکمون صدای سوم هستیم و این صدای سوم به عنوان یک جبهه رادیکال و انقلابی پیشرو مبارزات مردم ایران خواهد بود و شعار ما این است که جمهوری اسلامی را باید با یک اعتصاب عمومی و سراسری، با یک انقلاب و نه رفرم، با یک انقلاب به زیر کشید و اون روز دور نیست. زنده باد آزادی، برابری، اداره شورایی. زنده باد.